Beneath the noise, beneath the spinning thoughts and the endless trying, there is a pulse. You didn't lose it. You didn't fail to find it. You simply forgot, like a whisper that faded under louder things. It's always been there, not calling your name with force, but humming quietly in the space between breaths. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need another method, another teacher, another promise. You only need to listen, to remember. What if right now you let yourself feel it, the original vibration, the sacred rhythm that held you before you had a name? What might awaken if you finally stop seeking and simply return? This isn't a lesson, it's a homecoming. And you've already begun. You've tried, you've meditated, you've journaled your heart out. You've repeated affirmations under candlelight, waited for the moon to be full, saged your space, cleared your crystals. You've read the books, followed the teachers, watched video after video that promise transformation. You've whispered your intentions to the universe again and again. And still, there's this quiet question you carry. Why hasn't it clicked? Why do I still feel stuck? It's not because you're not ready. It's not because you're doing it wrong. It's because no one told you this one truth. Awakening doesn't begin with action. It begins with alignment. Most of us begin our spiritual journey by trying to fix something. A habit, a pattern, a version of ourselves that feels too loud or too quiet. We reach for healing like it's a ladder when we can climb fast enough to escape the version of ourselves we've judged. But trying to awaken from that place, from the belief that you are broken, is like trying to clean a mirror while your hands are muddy. The more you wipe, the more it smears. So what if the real shift isn't in what you do, but in where you begin? Because here's the thing, your frequency doesn't rise because you say new words. It rises when the space those words land in feels safe enough to hold them. And that safety, it doesn't come from effort, it comes from truth. The truth is, you never lost your light. It was just buried beneath noise, beneath pressure, beneath the idea that you had to earn your way into worthiness. Think about it. How often have you tried to get it right spiritually? To feel the energy, see the sign, hear the message? And how often did that trying leave you even more tangled? Your soul isn't asking you to try harder. It's asking you to hear the note beneath the noise, to come back to the silence that lives beneath striving. That silence, that stillness, is the real beginning, not a void, not a nothingness, but a place where your energy stops echoing everyone else's and starts speaking in your voice again. This is why the meditations didn't always land, why the affirmations sometimes felt hollow, why the breakthroughs felt brief. Because you were still holding your breath, waiting to be told you were enough. But what if you didn't need to wait? What if this very moment, this breath right now, could be the proof? Breathe with no intention, no technique, just feel the air move. And let that be enough. When you stop trying to escape who you are and start sitting beside it, really sitting, you'll feel something shift. Not a firework, not a blast of light, something quieter, something real. And in that softness, you'll remember what no book or mantra can teach. You are not broken, you are becoming. Let that truth land. Let it move through you like water carving stones, slowly, patiently, powerfully. Your awakening was never about getting somewhere new. It's about finally standing still long enough for your soul to catch up. There is something sacred you've carried your entire life, something so close, so constant, you've forgotten it was even yours. It isn't your voice. It isn't your heartbeat. It's your breath. From the moment you arrived in this world, breath has been your first language, the sound you made before you could speak, the rhythm your body knew before your mind could make sense of anything. But over time, you stopped listening. You started living from the neck up. And in that climb toward logic and performance and control, you misplaced the very rhythm that once kept you whole. But the breath never left you. It's still here, quiet, patient, unchanged. And today, it's waiting for you to remember, not as air, as frequency, because breath is more than survival. It's alignment, it's coherence, it's a tuning fork that brings your scattered pieces back into resonance. And when used with intention, it becomes the most ancient form of spiritual technology we've ever known. This is not metaphor. This is not poetic theory. Mystics knew it. Monks guarded it. Thoth spoke of it in Code's breath as gateway, tone as activation. You don't need a temple to feel it. You only need a moment. This one. Breathe in slowly. Now hold. Feel how time stretches, not in your mind, in your field. That stillness between inhale and exhale, that's the 0 point. That's the doorway. You see, every breath you take is more than oxygen. It's a carrier wave, a transmitter, a message from your soul to the rest of your body saying, I'm still here. I haven't given up on you. And when you begin to breathe consciously, not just deeply, but attentively, something begins to unlock. Memories return, not mental ones, cellular ones. Your body remembers what peace felt like before fear took the stage. Your cells remember the rhythm of being whole. This is why breathwork is not about doing it right. It's about undoing what was never yours. Each exhale becomes a letting go. Each inhale, a return. And within that simple, sacred loop, your frequency begins to rise. Not because you're trying to be high vibe, but because you're removing what was weighing it down. What if the breath you take tomorrow isn't just for oxygen, but for awakening? What if that first conscious inhale is the moment your soul reclaims the mic? What if sound, the sacred sound, begins with silence? And that silence begins in you? So now, pause, don't try to meditate, just breathe. And notice what breath feels like when you're not forcing it, when you're simply allowing it to arrive, to pass, to return. That's presence. That's coherence. That's the first step home. You don't need to chase your energy. You only need to listen to what's already flowing. And when you do, the breath stops being automatic. It becomes a ceremony, a sacred act of remembering. So when you next feel disconnected, confused, lost, don't reach for more information. Reach for your breath. It never stopped believing in you. You've tried the affirmations. You've journaled the intentions. You've whispered mantras into morning light, asking the universe to finally meet you halfway. But if you're honest, truly honest, something still feels off. As if you're standing on the shoreline, shouting to the waves, and the tide just won't come in. So what's happening? Why, after all your effort, your practice, your longing, does the shift still feel out of reach? The truth is disarmingly simple. It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that something deeper, something quieter is still being ignored. You say, I am abundant, but your body contracts. You whisper, I am love, but your chest tightens. You breathe in light, but your stomach clenches with fear. The words are beautiful. The intentions are pure. But your vibration, your true frequency, is still tethered to a part of you that feels unseen, unheard, unhealed. This is the dissonance no one talks about. The spiritual distortion that happens when truth is bypassed in favor of positivity. And here's the paradox. The more you try to rise above it, the deeper you sink. Because pretending you're okay doesn't make it so. Because saying, I'm healed, before you felt the wound only deepens the split inside. Vibration doesn't respond to language. It responds to resonance. And resonance only happens when what you feel, what you believe, and what you embody begin to align. So what's pulling you down? It's not failure. It's not weakness. It's resistance to your own pain. Because every time you suppress fear, guilt, shame, or sadness, every time you force yourself to stay high vibe, you are splitting from your own truth. And truth is the only frequency that holds. All else crumbles eventually. But here's the gift inside that hard truth. Low vibration isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. It's the part of you waving, whispering, "Look here. Feel me? I'm still waiting." So how do you escape low vibration? You don't, you face it. You sit with it, you let it speak. Because in the act of being witnessed, even your darkest feeling begins to shift. Not because you forced it, but because truth always wants to return to wholeness. This is not about wallowing. It's about welcoming. It's about letting all parts of you come to the table, the sacred, the messy, the afraid, and saying, "You belong here too." And in that moment, something incredible happens. You stop resisting. You start resonating. Your body exhales. Your energy softens. And without effort, your vibration begins to rise not as a performance, but as a natural return to alignment. So today, instead of fighting the fog, let yourself see through it. Instead of running from the weight, sit beside it. Ask, what part of me is still holding its breath? What truth am I afraid will unravel me? And then breathe. Breathe like the truth is safe now. Because it is. Because you are. Your frequency doesn't need fixing. It needs your full presence. Even in the low, especially in the low, that's where your liberation lives. There is a place that cannot be found by striving. A space that isn't created by effort, but revealed through stillness. It has no edges, no directions, no time. The ancients called it 0 point. But this isn't a destination. It's not the prize at the end of your spiritual journey. It is the beginning before beginnings, the space where everything rests before it becomes anything. You've touched it before, even if you didn't have words for it. That moment between inhale and exhale, when time disappears. The second before a thought lands, when your mind is utterly still. The quiet awe in a dream where you feel both nowhere and fully alive. 0 point is the place inside you that never left the source. It's not peace you have to achieve, it's peace that's already holding you. But why don't we live there? Because we've built our lives around movement, around becoming, fixing, reaching. We're told stillness is unproductive. That silence means something is missing, so we fill the quiet with thoughts. We chase vibration with noise, yet the highest frequency isn't loud. It's still. It doesn't demand your attention, it waits for your presence. 0 point doesn't push you to do more. It invites you to remember what you are beneath the doing. To the awakened heart, this silence is not emptiness. It's fullness without form. It's wholeness that needs no proof. So how do you know when you've touched it? You stop needing to convince yourself of anything. The search goes silent, not because you found what you were looking for, but because you remembered it was never lost. You might feel it as a soft pause in your chest, a slowing of thoughts, or a sudden clarity that has no words. There's no ritual to force your way in, but you can recognize its presence when your body unclenches without reason, when the questions dissolve before answers arrive, when the space around you feels sacred not because of what's in it, but because of what's absent. And here's the sacred irony. You do enter 0 point. You return to your original state. You stop being a seeker and become the silence from which seeking was born. This isn't about transcendence. It's about reintegration. The breath helps. Not the way you breathe to survive, but the way you breathe to listen. When breath slows without force, it becomes a bridge not to something beyond you, but to something within you. So pause now. Not to stop moving, but to meet the stillness already waiting inside. Let your breath become a soft question. Let your body remember how it felt to not be divided. And let the silence rise not as absence, but as the gentle presence of all that is whole. In this state, there is no you trying to be spiritual. There is only vibration, resting in its original tone. Welcome home to the space before sound, to the stillness that breathes you, to 0 point where nothing is missing and nothing is separate. You were never meant to push your way into the sacred, because the sacred never resists you. It isn't behind a locked door or buried under rituals. It's humming beneath your skin, waiting for your quiet permission to be heard. We've been taught to chase activation like it's a goal. To chant, visualize, align our chakras, meditate harder. But have you noticed? The more you try to become spiritual, the further you feel from your own truth. Because divine frequency cannot be forced. It can only be remembered. Your body was designed to sing it, not with your voice, but with your being. The sound doesn't come from your throat, it rises from your coherence. It pulses from the space where you are no longer performing, but simply existing. The sacred frequency doesn't activate when you finally get it right. It awakens the moment you stop trying to fix what was never broken. When you stop resisting your tiredness, stop pushing against your confusion, stop pretending you're more enlightened than you feel. That's when something soft begins to rise. Not an effort, not a technique. A tone ancient and intact begins to move through you. It isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. But you feel it in your bones, like a tuning fork returning to its original pitch. This is not about being perfect. This is about being available. When you release the grip of self-improvement, you make room for what's already sacred in you to breathe again. And here's the deepest truth. You were never disconnected. You were just distracted by the noise of trying. The divine frequency is not something you must summon. It's what's left when resistance dissolves. So how do you activate it? You don't. You allow it. You allow your breath to slow. You allow your thoughts to pass without chasing them. You allow yourself to not know, not fix, not control. And in that allowing, something holy stirs. It's not a rush of energy. It's not fireworks or visions. It's the gentle presence of your own completeness. You might begin to notice the way you speak softens. The way you move feels more like listening than acting. The world doesn't feel so separate from you. You're not broadcasting frequency. You're becoming it. This is the sacred paradox. You don't find the divine frequency by effort. You feel it by absence. The absence of striving, of resistance, of pretending. You don't have to raise your vibration. You only have to stop lowering it. The rest, the light, the alignment, the resonance, was always here, waiting for you to come home to it. You've been told guilt is your enemy, something to silence, cleanse, bury, or rise above. But what if guilt was never trying to punish you? What if it's been trying to guide you home? There's a kind of guilt that doesn't come from wrongdoing, but from forgetting who you are. You feel it when you speak words that sound wise, but your heart still aches quietly underneath. You feel it when you try to forgive yourself, but the weight doesn't lift, not because you've failed, but because you're not broken. You're just split between the version of you trying to move on and the part of you still kneeling in the dark, waiting to be seen. We all carry these fragments, moments we weren't strong, times we betrayed our own knowing, words we said or didn't that echo back. And here's the truth no one tells you. Guilt doesn't leave just because you reject it. It softens when you finally sit beside it. You don't need to chant over it, sage it away, or pretend it's gone. You need to ask it what it wants to show you. Because guilt, in its rawest form, is not shame. It's grief. Grief for the version of you who didn't yet know better. Grief for the self who couldn't speak up, or the love you didn't give when you had the chance. When you let yourself feel it without judgment, something begins to shift. You stop needing to release guilt spiritually. Instead, you begin to understand it as a message, a whisper from your past asking for reconciliation, not punishment. You begin to see guilt is a sacred wound, not to be erased, but to be held, until the fear dissolves and only tenderness remains. This is where healing gets real, not in the rituals or the affirmations, but in the quiet moment when you can place a hand on your own chest and say, I see the part of me that still hurts, and I will not abandon it again. In that embrace, energy unfreezes. Shame turns to wisdom. The fragments begin to rejoin, and suddenly you don't feel so scattered, so confused, so heavy. Because now, you're moving not away from guilt, but through it with your truth intact. This is the final anchor, learning that guilt was never your jailer. It was the signpost, pointing you back to your own wholeness. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real. And when you dare to meet your guilt with love instead of fear, you give yourself permission to come fully home, not in spite of your past, but because you've finally stopped running from it. You've been searching, through books, through rituals, through breathwork and stillness and sacred chants. You've tried to awaken again and again, hoping that one day you'd finally become spiritual enough. But what if the journey was never about becoming? What if it's about remembering? Remembering that before the seeking, before the techniques and the trials, you were already whole, not because you earned it, but because you've always been light, just wrapped in forgetfulness. You are not a machine tuning to higher frequency. You are frequency. You are resonance taking form for a little while. This isn't a metaphor. It's the most literal truth your soul keeps whispering when the world is quiet enough to hear it. When you stop trying to be spiritual, you stop holding yourself outside of who you already are. You stop placing the light at a distance, and you begin to embody it. You begin to remember the feel of your own energy, the quiet power of presence, the gentleness of being without striving, without labels. This remembrance isn't dramatic. It won't come with fireworks or angels descending. It will arrive like mist on the surface of still water, like a breeze that doesn't disturb, only touches. You'll feel it when you stop needing to fix your vibration. When you sit with yourself and really feel that you're not broken. You've just been taught to try too hard. And that very effort kept you circling, always missing the center. The spiritual awakening journey isn't a climb. It's a surrender. It's when you drop the tools, the judgments, the not enough yet mindset, and you breathe into what's here, right now. That breath, that moment, it holds more truth than any teaching. You'll know you've remembered when peace feels familiar again, when joy isn't forced, when silence feels like home. Because awakening was never about becoming someone new. It was always about becoming you. And you without effort, without masks, are already sacred. If something feels quieter inside you now, if your breath feels softer, your thoughts less loud, then you've touched something real. You don't need to see signs. You don't need proof, because something in you has already shifted. Say it aloud if you feel it. I have touched the 0 point. This isn't an ending, it's a return. Not to what you were, but to what was always waiting. The stillness, the remembrance, the frequency that doesn't shout but vibrates through your every cell. Now the question isn't how to awaken, it's how to stay awake. As you move, breathe, speak, and love. That's the next part of the journey, and you're not walking it alone. So breathe, stay, and let the energy settle where it always belonged in you.